Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Lee, where sports, culture, and community intersect. Join Carl and frequent co-host Hollis Lewis as they dive into engaging conversations with guests from all walks of life. Let's Talk is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Let the conversation begin on Let's Talk.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And my co-host Hollis Lewis is back. He's been out for a couple weeks, and he is the West Virginia Project Director of Crisis Intervention Team in community programming. Or I guess that's actually just programs, right?
Yeah.
And you did give us a little bit of a brief information about that. And I'm going to ask one quick question about it. To the degree of when you say crisis intervention, like tell us a little bit of like how what is that and how deep is that in your position actually?
Okay. Well, Crisis Intervention Team's project director for West Virginia. And basically what we do is we bring together first responders. That includes law enforcement, EMS, firefighters, behavioral health, community advocate, whether it's mental health, SUD, and we train them on having a better response to persons in crisis. So essentially, we want to redirect those individuals who aren't necessarily doing anything criminal justice related in order to get them help. Because a lot of times if somebody's in crisis, law enforcement will get called and there's no other, there's no other choice but either I'm going to just let this person go or maybe apprehend them. So what we try to do is connect law enforcement, firefighters, and whomever to community resources in which they know are available to help these individuals who aren't necessarily doing anything criminal justice related per se, other than maybe just being a nuisance.
So not necessarily. So in light of law enforcement or something like that, you're trying to get an individual who could actually work maybe one-on-one with that individual?
Well, yes, we want to do that. For example, if there was a call, somebody's having some sort of mental health crisis, and law enforcement arrives to the scene, law enforcement could possibly call. Yeah, because normally that's the point of contact.
Yeah.
So law enforcement could call somebody in behavioral health or call somebody who's an advocate for SUD and try to get that person help. And in addition, law enforcement through our training and through other things that we have, law enforcement would know, okay, this person. Again, maybe not being an expert, but they know, hey, this person's suffering from, schizophrenia, this or that, and they would know how to adequately deal with that person.
So you would be actually hand in hand, in a sense, with the police officer trying to handle that particular side of it compared to, so if I'm the cop, I'm kind of sitting there and trying to let you kind of work out.
Well, not me necessarily.
But what we do is help, team.
Yeah, what we do is help facilitate all that.
Yes,
so we help facilitate those trainings. And the best thing I like about it, and the best way to explain, we connect those community resources. Because a lot of times you have these resources that are out in the community, but, this is kind of like the right hand is not knowing what the left hand is doing, although they're kind of naturally in partnership with one another. So we can connect those dots, facilitate trainings and informational sessions.
And targeting some of the similar people.
Exactly, because it's all of the similar people.
All those are the similar
when we look
people.
at, you go downtown Charleston, you have a lot of people who are suffering houselessness, who have SUD, substance use disorder issues, or have some sort of IDD or mental health crisis happening currently.
We'll go on after this, but just traveling over the last couple of weeks, I've been actually downtown quite a bit, driving around downtown, and I mean, it's challenging to, pretty much every corner there's somebody on a corner. And, it's kind of, I'm sure everybody feels it's kind of like, should I give them money? Should I not? What are they going to do with the money once I give them the money? To me, I'm just trying to figure out, what do we do with that? That's not really a question to you, but, here's
the issue. It's not that Charleston, if you look at Charleston, it's not that Charleston has necessarily a houselessness problem. It's just that Charleston has the resources. So if you're coming from a community that's a little bit more desolate, a little bit more rural, and you don't have a house, you don't have anything, you're coming to Charleston, you're going to Parkersburg, you're going to Huntington, you're going to Morgantown, you're going to the communities and the cities with resources that could, possibly help you or sustain you while you're on the street. So that's kind of being in the city and having a plethora of resources, it's a catch-22 because you're going to have those individuals.
Makes sense. All right, Let's Talk is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. You can visit Frank Walker at frankwalkerlaw.com for more information. You can also catch Let's Talk every Sunday at 1 p.m. and Thursday at 7 p.m. on 580 WCHS. And if you want to watch any of the episodes, you can visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. You can follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk with Carl Lee for any updates. All right, so
opening football weekend. Yeah.
Opening,
a lot to cover.
Opening football season, the first game. The interesting component is, and you know this, and I'm thinking that when I say this, that almost everybody who loves football gets this.
Yeah.
So everybody dies for the opening week.
Yeah.
Can't wait, especially collegiate football. So we're gonna focus right there on collegiate football first. Usually, what you find in collegiate football opening week is usually not your best game because you either are playing somebody who's invited you in because they think they're going to beat you,
yeah,
or you're the team that somebody's probably likely going to beat. Yeah. But usually you're going to be on an away game. You're not going to be at home.
You're playing up or down.
Yes, you're playing. Marshall played at home. They played Stony Brook.
Yeah, and that's sort of and that's changed in the last couple of years too.
I think so too.
Yeah, because I think teams now are with the thought process, hey, let's start hot. Let's try to get us.
Let's go as high as we can.
Yeah,
and take a shot at it.
Take a shot. Now you called Stony Brook Marshall. You called that game this weekend. So how was that for you? What did you see from Marshall?
It was actually interesting. And believe it or not, I wasn't overly impressed with Marshall, especially early on. And again, first game, everybody getting a feel. And I think second half, I think it was clear that they were the best team. But I felt like there was a back and forth punt with a team that I'm thinking like, no, you should, like I was in my mind, I had envisioned right down the field score.
Yeah.
3 plays and out, right back down the field and score.
Yeah.
I kind of had that in my mind, and it was maybe a quarter or so that didn't happen, and I was like, what is going on? And I thought to myself like, and thinking and calling the game and doing the color for the game is kind of a easy kind of thing because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what if this is, a major team? Yeah. What if they're playing a major team?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to assess that.
I agree. And again, first game,
and you're playing
first game.
Yeah, you're not playing in conference.
You're not playing in conference. You already have all week long. I'm sure Coach Huff was saying, don't take this team for granted. Don't take it for granted. Yeah. And you're watching film and you're thinking to yourself, man, they haven't won many games and, we're supposed to be good.
Yeah.
There's no way this team can beat us, which that's how you end up getting beat.
Yeah.
But so I think when they started out, I think they weren't ready. I don't think they were mentally ready. All the hype is coming for it to being the first game. You're out on the field, you're playing and all that kind of stuff. The crowd's there, and you're just excited behind that. But on the field, it just didn't show until later.
And again, playing a team that you're supposed to beat it may take a week or two for you to actually, being at this first game. So it may take a little while for you to actually get in your rhythm and get in your mode.
I think that the coaches, coordinators, position coaches, I think they probably were heavy, kind of a heavy tone in the early part of the game, talking about down the road, we're not going to be able to play like this in the first half. So they probably got that. And it was one of those kind of games that I think that game was one of those type that, the coaches get to make an example of not playing hard.
Even though you won. Even though you won. 45-3.
Yes. Yeah, you got to go off on them because you know that they didn't play their best, especially early on.
And that's always a tricky spot as a coach.
It is.
When you clearly beat a team handedly, but, there's a lot to break down in film, and it's not necessarily a quote-unquote great performance, even though you won decisively.
And I'll say this. Later on in the game, they looked really good. But the interesting component is you're talking about a 3-quarterback situation there. You got three guys that you're trying to figure out who's the guy. I don't know who the guy is at this point, but there's no way you're going to be able to go into this game this week with 3 guys.
Yeah, that's that. I'm sure they were kind of testing some waters. So I would say probably the coaches know who that guy is.
I wouldn't make a guess, but I will say this: you have to be mobile in today's game.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
If you're going to throw the ball, you've got to be mobile. I don't care how well you throw the ball.
Well, no, I care about that. You got to throw the ball.
You have to be
accurate.
Yes, but I'm just saying, if you can throw the ball really well, you better be Tom Brady if you can't run.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because today's game, man, it's that pocket is not staying there long, and you're going to have to get out of it.
All right. So now again, Marshall played WVU. WVU lost to Penn. I don't know what the expectations of the fan base were or the pundits, but in my mind, this was a game that had to be won. Again, not to say they were better, worse, whatever, but I think as a statement piece, I think to come out the gate strong, and I think for the program to take that next level, particularly like in light that there is a 12-team playoff this year, and you got one of 12 opportunities to win a national championship, unlike any other time in college football history. So this was one you had to get from me.
Okay, and we talked about this prior to. I don't know if Penn State has. I think they play. I think I said 60 games.
60 something like that.
60 games, and I think Penn State has only won West Virginia's only won 6 or 8 of them. And
something like that.
And
it's lopsided as far as the historical record.
Yeah, like 40, 50 to 8 or something, some crazy number like that. When you say Penn State and WVU, see, I'm go way back. I'm way older than you. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, I don't remember them beating Penn State. The moment you say Penn State and WVU, it's an L.
It's an L for you.
I just don't. And what's amazing to me, which I guess it shouldn't be, is like the fan base was upset.
You got to be upset. If you look at Georgia Tech, Florida State, Georgia Tech just made a statement. Again, Florida State may not be any good this year.
Right.
Penn State might not be any good this year.
But they're ranked.
But you gotta make a statement.
But at least but again, you're on the field with a team that's ranked
8, top 10.
Yes. So now when you start talking about 8 and you have nothing behind your name,
you got nothing.
Nothing. My issue isn't really with the team or the coach. Mm-hmm. My issue is with the fan base.
Fan base. But I think the fan base is right. I'm with the fan base on this one.
I don't think
you got to win this.
I know you got to. You want to win this.
No,
I think it's more. You want to win this.
No, I'm saying this is to me, this was, again, game's over. You got to move on with your season, blah, blah, blah. But that game, that day was a must-win for me. That's the number 8 team in the country. WVU, if you want to take the steps to get yourself in a national playoffs in the national spotlight, that's a game you got to win. Because not only are you talking about, maybe jumping into a top 15 rank, not only are you talking about having a trajectory that's going to take you to the playoffs, but also that's going to leave recruits, transfers. That's going to put a different spotlight on you.
And I get all that. And I'm not Mountaineer hating because I'm a Marshall guy.
You are.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just thinking, like, if I'm looking at this game and I'm looking at history, WVU has not beat them at least at a max. It's less than 10. Okay,
yeah, they haven't won
10 games
but
since they've been playing.
This is a different era now. Year to year, if you get 5 good transfers in, that might take you from no rank again to the college football playoffs. So it's a different era now. But anything can happen.
And again, I'm not always into the rankings either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But especially now, I don't really.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know really how you pick that.
Yeah.
But in this particular situation, a non-ranked team with a ranked team, a top 10 ranked team,
top 10.
That speaks volumes to me that ain't gonna turn out good.
Normally, I'm not. In most cases, maybe not. But I just think.
But you say in most cases it did happen in this one.
And it did. You're right. Like I said, I can't necessarily dispute that. I can't even necessarily dispute the historical significance. Although, like I said, it's a different era. But I'm just saying, like, and again, even to lose the game, maybe if it was overtime or you took them down to the wire in the fourth quarter, that's different than just kind of just getting beat up. You didn't get beat horribly, 34-12, but you ain't really compete that much neither.
Yeah, because 12 points against an 8th-ranked team.
Yeah, and you allowed 34.
And you gave up 34.
Yeah,
I mean,
which ain't terrible.
It's not really terrible.
Yeah,
if that was any other two teams, we wouldn't even be having this conversation probably. Yeah. But because this is what we have called a rivalry.
It ain't no rivalry. I don't see how it's
and I was going to make the case too.
It's a rivalry in our mind.
I do think that's where it's at. I do think that
rivalry,
I think it's that old school. And again, Pitt's right close to us.
Yeah.
Penn State. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is right. It's just right up the street from WVU.
Yeah.
So.
It's a rivalry.
It's a rival. It's a rival in that kind of mind because the statistics on wins and losses are not.
This ain't Pitt WVU. It ain't
no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Virginia Tech. So staying with college football, Dabo Sweeney. Dabo Sweeney's a acclaimed coach at Clemson. National championships, had a stellar program up until this current era of NIL and transfer. And Dabo is one of the few coaches. I think it's Dabo, Sweeney at Clemson, Navy, Army, the military academies that don't take transfers, and I don't think they do too much with NIL. He's basically refused to do that, and he just got last season didn't go great. This opening season again. Now, mind you, they played Georgia, which is kind of like maybe a semi-pro football team at the NFL level talent. They got beat up on, but I guess the story is that does he continue down this road or does he adapt?
I think he's going to continue down that road for two reasons. I think he buys it. I think that he's bought into that belief that college football should be the college football that he remembers.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I don't think that he is concerned about being fired.
I can say he got a $60 million reasons why.
Yeah.
He got a $60 million buyout.
So I can do it the way that I want. I'm setting the example because for the people who sit in a meeting room talking about this sounds like a great idea, and him being a great Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame coach is likely going to take these L's just to prove that y'all do what y'all want. I'm going to recruit my guys. If they leave, they leave. We'll play who we got.
See, that's
I love it.
No, I know you love it.
I love it.
But I think that's terrible. And I think it sets a terrible precedent because, number one, you're not doing as a coach. Number one, you're not doing what you need to do to succeed and win, which is your job. Number two, it's hypocritical because, again, don't worry about the players. Whether you fire whatever the buyout is, you got $60 million in a buyout, so it don't matter what happened. You win or lose, they let you go, you walk, whatever. You got $60 million waiting on you, unlike them players. So what I'm saying is that you have an obligation to that university, you have an obligation to those players to do what's necessary to win. This ain't about proving no point.
I like that stance.
Yeah,
that's a lawyer kind of stance. I think you did a good job of presenting that. But I'm going to make the case that at some point, when the system is broken, and I'm going to use a horrible one right now.
Okay,
but if you thought there was a whole lot of people who thought slavery was right.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying. I said it was a bad one. I said it was a bad one. It's a horrible one. It's a horrible one, but it was the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay.
Like, so some people didn't necessarily do it for the fact of color or anything. They just did it. They need help. Whatever excuse you want to use.
Yeah.
But I think what he's doing is he's saying, like, this is how it's supposed to be. I'll take my risk. Because the kids who are not going to leave, they're going to get what they're supposed to get out of that sport. Because, see, sports is not what we've done is we've turned sports into winning and losing. Who's winning is you get all the great accolades because you win. Sports is not really at the ground level, at its core. There are more kids who play it who get nothing out of it other than teamwork, discipline, and the things that it's supposed to bring.
Yeah.
And that's what Sweeney is. I think that's what he's after. He's after the core values of what it used to be about.
No.
Because for the kid that's leaving for NIL money, because he only got $20,000 there and somebody's going to give him $100,000.
Yeah.
He's leaving only because of the money. He's leaving only because of the money. So money, and again, I get all the money that's in sports, especially in what used to be amateur sports.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible.
See, I don't think Dabo Sweeney buys in any of those ideas. I think, number one, this is a national championship coach, so he's about winning. And what he's also about, which may be higher than winning, is not a moral stance. It's a control stance. And he is at a point, just like Nick Saban, where now you don't control. You don't have at least 100% control, as we know coaches in the past did. Football coach at particularly at a major level program, you controlled 100% of pretty much everything on campus. I can give you a piece of that.
I can give you a piece of that.
So this is a control issue. And now that you don't have control, now it's out of your control, all these other moving parts. Now boosters can come in kind of in and out freely, and it's more to it, although probably some of this has always been there in college sports, but it's being more is added onto it. And now that I don't have the control, I don't want to adapt to what's going on. Because if I'm a recruit, number one, if I can, and I'm sure they give out some sort of NIL, right? But now I know that I'm going there and I'm not going to play with the best players possible. Because when we talk about transfers, you don't necessarily need to do like Deion. Because when you look at the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Michigan, most of 67% of their talent is homegrown. But it's that you may need that tackle that you may have to go find. You may have to find that free safety. You may have to find that quarterback to come in and fill a gap. That's really how the transfer portals is supposed to be used. You're not supposed to do like Deion necessarily have a whole team every year, unless that's what you just have to do. So I think his failure to adapt is going to cost not only him, but it costs the kids in the university as well. And they got to. And if I was the university, I'm looking at a way to get rid of him and save myself $60 million. I'm trying to figure out something.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back and respond to that. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
Find previous episodes of Let's Talk at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. This is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I have to respond to Hollis's reality of how he sees
How it is. Yeah.
Versus how it should be.
Okay.
Because I truly believe that there's an actual way that this should be, and I think I'm going to go old school on you. I'm gonna stay in the old school. I'm okay with you paying him.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm okay with you paying him. But the movement should not, because what made you go to Colorado? What made you go to Notre Dame? Coach recruits you, and then the opportunity of you getting more money, or maybe to a different team just for the sake that your team didn't win.
Yeah.
What true life lessons are they getting in this? Because the reality of this is not once they get done.
Yeah.
So let's say they don't show up, and not all these guys that are making money they're not going to make any more money going to the pros. Yeah. And a lot of them may not even be in the draft. So I mean, you leave college rich.
Yeah, with some money.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
in some cases.
In some cases, with a good fresh start.
Yeah,
in the life.
Yeah, particularly if you're at a major program.
Yeah,
Power 5. Yeah,
I just don't. I can't.
But I think that's over with. All the life lessons, all that stuff is done.
Oh, I do believe that.
This is business now. So when we talking about business, are we talking about you going to do good business, or you just not? Are you going to do business or you're not? And with Dabo Sweeney, it's like he's choosing just not to do business. Because to your point, okay, you're paying whatever, that's cool. And I'm not telling you, again, as I stated earlier, you don't have to bring in a whole new roster. But if you know you don't have a quarterback, go find you a quarterback. If you know you don't have a D lineman,
what's wrong? But what's wrong with going and recruiting one out of high school?
That guy may not be ready to play. You know what I'm saying?
Then whose fault is that you're stuck in that position? Because you thought that guy, thought that guy was going to be great, and all of a sudden now he's not as good as what you thought he was.
I mean, no, not necessarily good as what you thought.
A bunch of times.
He may not just be ready to play at that point. He may be a guy that needs to sit for 2 or 3 years. But in that 2 or 3 years of him setting, right now you got a team that's ready to go. What I'm saying is, like, if you got a team that's ready to go, but you know you need about 4 to 5 positions, and I'm saying, again, you ain't got to go get out the whole roster, but go fill those 4 or 5 positions with experienced guys who are ready to plug and play. That's what teams are doing. It's like that's a pretty simple concept to me. And like I said, to me, he's doing a disservice to the university and his team, frankly.
I just don't see it. And again, I'm quite a bit older than you, and mindset's probably stuck in old school. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You know,
I don't like it because we're not having those college Saturday morning heroes like we used to have. Like Tim Tebow being at Florida for 4 years, that's like awesome. That's great memories. But that's just not today.
So let's go to that point.
Yeah.
So here's a guy that is great, a great college athlete.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, just great. And just considered the best player in his class.
Yeah.
And yet he doesn't necessarily transition very well into the league.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I see that as today, that guy's making all kinds of money that for collegiate football, which is amateur sports.
Was.
Yeah. But it is. They call it that.
Yeah, that's
and so now all of a sudden could you imagine him in these days right now?
He would be worth
it. I mean, but see, I'm thinking that's the difference in collegiate football and professional football and the judgment or how good you can be in collegiate football and still not be able to make it in the pros. And you're making money nearly like some of the guys that are in the pros.
For some guys, yeah.
For some guys.
Well,
he would have been that guy.
He would have been
that guy.
For sure.
And so I just don't see how that becomes something acceptable. And I don't even know. And again, I blame it on the suits.
No, I blame it on the suits and the coaches because the fact of the matter is players weren't asking for this.
No.
That's what we got to remember. If the NCAA, if the coaches, if they had any scruples about them 10 to 15 years ago, all these guys were asking for was a couple $1,000 a month. They were literally asking, "Hey, man, can I get $5,000 a month?" They weren't asking for all this.
But you know, like I know, the moment that you make $200,
yeah,
and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. You know, I've been here for 3 years, and I've been playing my whole 3 years, and I deserve $400.
But that's and then you know what? That might be true, but the NCAA had the opportunity to set all the parameters.
They could have capped that.
They could have capped it. They could have started through.
And
they
there's
could
no
have played
capping
with
now.
it. Now there's no capping it now because you're not necessarily going back. I mean, I guess you could possibly, but I think at this point some schools will rebel and just do away to NCAA totally. And I'm saying they had the opportunity to say, okay, if you're here, you make this. If you're there, you make this, and it's just across the board. And this is what everybody get. They had the opportunity to do that, and they didn't. They fumbled it. Now the result is this. So this is what happens when you're not equitable in the money that you're bringing in. This is what happens.
All right. So is there even a possibility of a solution? Are we sitting in the room, sitting down and trying to have this discussion and try to figure out how do we come back? How do we reverse it?
I mean, it's just now. I think now a lot of entities have to agree. So I think if you had the way I picture it is for example, the NCAA, the collegiate presidents, the ADs, and the coaches, they all have to sit and agree on kind of what's going to be good and what's going to be not good, and then you're going to have, to your point, the argument. Well, we should be able to do this because we have these resources, and then, for example, if everybody that I just mentioned agreed totally, then you got the players you got to deal with because now they used to getting this, and I can see a point where players unionize, and once that happens, it's over.
Absolutely, because my first thought is, so I'm a freshman, I'm coming in, I'm getting, $500,000, because my future is promising, and lo and behold, second semester. The rule changes. And now you capping me at 100,000.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm not interested in that.
It's going to be a lot of guys who ain't going to be interested in that. Then you got your boosters you got to contend with, who are the wild card of all this.
And I'll make this case. You're right. This is great for the booster who loves his school and's got a whole lot of money.
Got endless pockets.
Yes, he loves
pat
it.
him up.
Get whoever you want. And but I just don't understand. Like, I just don't understand the idea of why did this? Like, why did we really go there? Why did we end up going down this road so deep?
Again, because the NCAA did not make any provisions for players. I think what happened is like the pendulum swung the opposite way. They were so stringent, so tight with everything. If you buy a player, remember back in the day, somebody buy a player a Happy Meal. You're suspended. The whole programs, you're done. Yeah. We're taking Reggie Bush's, all that. They went so far right now that we're going way far left. And again, I think it can come back to a middle ground, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a well thought out process to make sure that, once we come back to that middle ground, that we either everybody's got to be unhappy or everybody's got to be appeased to a certain point.
All right, so let's say I'm a suit in the room, and we're sitting around, we're having a conversation about what we think we can do. My first comment is going to be like, okay, well, one, you can't have players on your team, collegiate players, 1 year, 2 years out of high school, making more money than the coaches who've been coaching for 30 years, and this is their livelihood. They work all day, every day, trying to get the team better. You can't pay players greater than collegiate coaches, can you?
I mean, I that's kind of tricky.
I mean, because
I see where you're going with that. I mean, I think that's a fair point. But I don't think I think the way you phrase stuff is important too. I think you do what the NFL did and just have caps. Like, it's like I said, you have caps, and I think, like, if you coming in, this is what you get, and if you here, this is what you get, and then you have caps on movement. Like, man, you don't get to transfer 5 and 6 times. You get one transfer.
So say a freshman comes in, does every freshman get paid, or are we paying just the top?
You have a cap, so this is what you can get paid here, or you can go zero. Just like the NFL. The NFL has a rookie cap.
So if my cap is $10, so I got $10 as a cap, and I'm coaching $10 too, right?
Yeah.
So I got $10. So my $10 is going to spread out through.
You manage it however you want to.
So if I gave it all to one guy.
Yeah, that's on you.
Okay.
And then, like I said, you got – and I ain't even saying that.
I would buy that.
I'm just saying, like, this, you can't make more than this coming in and you're a freshman. You're not signing for $500,000 or $1 million and you're a freshman. You get $100,000, and as you move up the scale, this is what it is. Number one, I think it could encourage athletes to stay in college longer, which I think NIL kind of does, or maybe doesn't in some instances. And then –
unless you're sure you're going to be – productive in the NFL, or you're going to go first, you might as well stay in college.
And again, and what we're saying, everybody ain't getting paid like this anyway. Even now,
we're talking about the elite top guys.
You know what I'm saying?
But see, I don't like the fact that that let's say the roster is 100 kids on the college program. I understand that one shouldn't have to be. Or let's say 100, the guy who's the 100th player on that team cannot make the money that the number one guy makes. But it should not be that big of a difference if you recruited me here and brought me here to play here.
Hey, you are what you worth, man. I mean, you can't necessarily say that per se.
Okay, so if we're saying it's okay, so it's $500 for the whole roster. You got $500 for the whole roster. Mm-hmm. And you got Bo Jackson, okay? He's your running back, and he's a junior, right? He basically could eat up.
I guess the model in which I'm saying is that and I think when I say cap, I don't mean as cap as though this is the total bank that you're working with.
See, that's what I'm thinking. No. I'm thinking I think that you put a cap on it.
No, I just mean can't buy like a classification. So, like, if you're a freshman, you make this. If you're a sophomore, you make.
I'd be good with that.
And again, I'm
saying, regardless if you're the top,
it don't matter. This is what you make. This is what you make. And again,
I could go with that.
And then you have incentives built into that. So if we make the playoffs, you get this bump. If you break this record, you get this bump. You win the Heisman, win the double award, you get this bump.
That's just like pro.
Yeah, so I'm saying like that. Like we not. If you're Alabama, Georgia, you're not coming in. You're not making peanuts. We still gonna pay you a good amount, but it's like we're not gonna have it so where it's so up and down between programs. And speaking of suits, so in addition to Marshall, you actually called the Huntington and Hurricane game, and I don't know what it was about this week. All these guys, like, it was just lightning. It was a lightning and rain fest all last week, and these games ended up starting at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I mean, in addition to what we've seen with the West Virginia, and we're talking West Virginia high school sports, in addition to what we've seen as far as the classification debacle, and then these games last week starting so late. I mean, what was your thoughts on that? I mean, do we just, hey, we're going to play tomorrow? I mean, do we need to start games at 10 o'clock?
We got through about a quarter and some before they went off the field. And when they came back, I think they had like maybe about 6 or 7 minutes left. My first concern was like, because that had never happened. I mean, I had actually not, we didn't have that issue. As much rain as I played in, I never been in a rain or thunder and lightning delay.
Yeah, I don't think not that long. I've been in a couple, but not that long.
I don't even remember at all. Okay,
yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what is going on in the locker room. Like, how do you, what do you do? I mean, you hype before the game. You get out there and you get a quarter and a little bit of minutes, and then now you're sitting and you have no idea how long it's going to take. And every time you hear thunder, you have to assume it's thunder and lightning.
And it's another 30 minutes.
It's another 30 minutes. I don't know how you come back out and be ready to go. Yeah. I just don't know what that does mentally. But I'll say this. Both of those teams did come out almost as if they had not left the field.
Yeah. And I'd say in West Virginia high school football, those are elite programs.
Yes, those are. Yeah, you would make the case that those are some of the top programs. Yeah. And
they got the start. I'm saying like GW, Capital. I went to a South Charleston game. They didn't start until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's when because it was delays in the beginning.
Yeah.
So they started later. So I'm just like, at some point, like, why aren't we just saying, hey, we'll play this thing tomorrow? I don't understand the logic in that.
I guess it's like, if you don't want like everybody to go home and come back, but like the Marshall game, man, like where it was before the lightning, it never got back to that in the stands. Those folks,
they were late left.
There was not a lot of. I mean, it was a decent amount that came back, but not nearly what was there prior to.
Yeah, I was at GW and South Charleston. I tried to stay, and I left both.
Yeah,
I didn't want to wait 2 hours.
Yeah, because now you're sitting there thinking, one, you got to go back to your car.
Yeah,
sitting in your car, you're watching it rain. You're almost to a point like, man, I ain't even going to go back in. Yeah. See, I couldn't imagine, if I'd have gone in my car, man, I'm going home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a tough opening weekend for high school sports around here, for football that is.
But but fortunately, the game was, I'm going back. I'm going to Huntington and Hurricane game. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was.
It was interesting to me because what you could tell was, Mays is really a really good offensive coach, but I don't think either team had played very good defense early on, and
yeah, it's his first week. Tackling's always going to be an
issue. But so it was just interesting to me to watch those two teams play and try to figure out, who's coming out of there. Who's going to be the team that's going to come out of there with the best mindset? Yeah. Because it was a close game. Could have easily gone to overtime, and anybody could have won.
Yeah.
So now both teams has got to have the conversation and saying to both teams, coaches talking to their teams, we're going to see this team again.
Yeah.
And we got to do better.
Yeah.
Because you barely won. I mean, you had to block a kick to win the game.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. Now, one of the things that I think if there's anything if there's anything negative, if you want to call it negative, for Mays is I think he's such a focused offensive guy that I'm not sure, and I can't prove this or not, but it just I'm not sure, like, everything, like, that should have been, that kick should have got off.
Yeah.
To me. You know what I'm saying? Because, man, I'm talking about there was a lot of guys through there.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that ended up hurting bad.
Yes. and I just think, just if field goal block team is better, we're in overtime and got a chance to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough, man. I watched the game on the app, and it's just like Huntington's running attack was because they had almost like a thunder and lightning approach with Keegan Sachs,
yes,
and Zy Jackson, who was actually the Carl Lee winner last year. So like it's gonna be interesting to watch them throughout the season. Because
and to your point is they're gonna get better.
Yeah,
and if they and again I'll say this. Anybody who can run the football,
yeah,
man, you got a problem to deal with, because it's easy to tackle a receiver, catches the ball, you tackle him. That's cool. That's easy to do. Mm-hmm. But that dude that's a hard runner.
Yeah.
And you got to see him down after down after down, and he's getting to the secondary. The secondary guys don't want to get him. Yeah. That can cause some problems. And clock time, killing the clock, possessions, just running the football, chewing the clock up. I think it's going to be a tough. If Huntington gets even better, if they continually get better in the running game and to whatever degree they want to throw the ball, man, I think they're going to be tough.
They got athletes all up and down the field.
Yes.
Our Black Eagles, they scored. Hey, look, we lost, but we scored 19 points. So that was the most we scored in the game in a couple years. So I was happy about that. Our Black Eagles scored 19, baby.
I was getting ready to say that, that amount of points is progress. For sure.
Yeah, this was again, it was a loss, but it was positive. We got a kid, Malcolm Brown. He scored all 3 of the touchdowns. He's a kid transferred from Virginia. He's from here. He moved to Virginia and moved back home. They got him a receiver, DB, running back that plays a little bit of everything. So he definitely shows some promise, and it was fun to see the Black Eagles on the board.
If you've got that type of guy, number one, you got to keep him.
Yeah, Well, I think he's a senior. I want to say he's a senior.
Okay, and the thing about it is you've got to focus on him.
Yeah,
you got to find if he can be a receiver, you got to get him the ball in space. If he's a running back, you got to get him on the edge. You got to get him some draws and screens. You got to give him opportunities where he can actually use his talent.
Yeah, and I think that's what they tried to do. Like I said, they had him playing at running back. They had him playing at receiver. Mm-hmm. I think when you work with a team like that, who's South Charleston is rebuilding, that if you have a guy who can make some things happen, you got to move him all over. Because you don't want him to get double team and people can focus on him. Like I said, he even took an interception to the house, so it was good to see.
And it's interesting too because and I'm curious about what your response to this is. In today's game, people look at that type of an athlete all over the field, playing different positions. They're like, man, they're playing him too many positions. They need to, he needs to be, he needs to go somewhere else where he can just be this. I'm going to make the case that, man, if you have that kind of skill set and you're being able to go all over the field, playing different positions and playing them at a high level, what's that scout looking at?
Yeah, I think.
See, so to me, I'm loving that because scouts are going to see him in all kinds of different situations compared to one position which he might not physically fit.
Yeah,
one just because of size.
I mean, I would I would kind of agree and disagree. I think that, again, when you have an athlete like that, you're going to naturally move him around because you don't want him to get targeted and double team, different things of that nature. And then when you're working on a team like South Charleston who is rebuilding, you're going to have to, because you got to find creative ways to get in the ball. Right. As far as scouting and college recruiting, I think that, again, depending on the type of athlete you are, you may find some benefit to just being stable and playing that one position, because they can kind of assess where you're good, where you're bad, where you're deficiency, and everything like that. Although it could be beneficial because now they could sort of see where they could pitch you. But again, that may open up situations once you go to the next level where you may not be right for that particular system and different things of that nature. So it's one of those things that, again, depending on where you're at, depending on where the program's at, you got to use guys how you can use them, and you got to figure out a way to win.
And I think that's the most important. I think that's the most important thing. But hats off to him, simply because sometimes you have to know that you're making an impact there.
Yeah.
Just in that first game, he already knows that he's the lead horse there.
And I hope we can keep it up because, like I said, I think that from watching the game, the amount of game that I watch, I think that, we South Charleston can win some games this year.
So is there anybody, that you could say looked okay in week 1, but could be somewhere else by week 5?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like I said, I mean, you look at a team like Martinsburg, they beat a DC team 66-0. Again, we don't know how good the DC team is. Right. Hurricane and Huntington, they both look good to me. Yeah. So I could see them both, going deep playoff runs. GW looks solid. Again, South Charleston, Ripley, okay, we'll see what they have. So it's kind of hard to tell. Nitro looked great, but it's going to be hard to tell.
Well, one of the interesting components for me is as you go down to week 2, week 6, week 7, there's always going to be somebody's name is going to jump out there that nobody knew. Yeah. That the expectation was not I don't know if I want to say not there, but just maybe unexpected of how good that particular player is. And I think that's one of the special things about football and the development of it and the advancement of it. And I'll give we've got a little kid that's on youth football that couple years ago, I mean, he would literally, just sit down on the field, wouldn't do anything. We call him Bear. And I've probably given him a shout out before, but if you came and watch one of our practices or come to one of the games and you'd see this little kid 3'4" or something, a little kid, and bro, he is legitimately tackling, running, he broke a big run last week, and it's just in a couple of years, his whole football mindset changed, and I use that as an example because, man, when you start to talk about that guy from 10th, 11, gets to 12, or that 9th grader, 10th grader that nobody's really thinking about, and all of a sudden we get into week 5, somebody goes down, he goes in, and all of a sudden, how many times have you said, why wasn't he playing in the beginning? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because you didn't see it.
And I think that becomes even harder to assess when we talk about the transfer and the movement of players. Yes. Because it may take you a while to gel. That's why I was saying that, the Keegan Sachs kid from Huntington, he was a GW kid, and he almost had immediate impact first game at that power running back position. So like I said, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think by probably week 3, week 4, who's starting to peak out.
What would make you as an athlete, and you're at G-Dub?
Yeah.
What's going to make you transfer?
I mean, I don't know. I think maybe if there's a coaching change, maybe if we're going to.
Or your team coaching change?
Yeah, like if I'm at GW and there was some like coaching change, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the head coach. Maybe we have a new offense or defensive coordinators coming in with a different philosophy.
Okay.
It may be, I want to win a championship. I don't think I can maybe win it there. Or maybe it's a situation in which I just want to play with the best athletes in the area to see where I'm at, So it could be a variety of things that at a high school level that you maybe want to transfer.
See, because I haven't really found one that sticks for me.
I mean, I think because to me, it's the nature of the position that you play too. I mean, it wasn't. Again, if you're playing safety or corner, you want to have good linebackers and a good D line. It's going to help you as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. You don't have to make all the tackles. But at the end of the day, you still out on the island by yourself. It's almost like playing like an outfield position in baseball. Right. And
I still have some impact on how I play that position in spite of
everybody else.
In spite of everybody else.
And I think once you move closer, it becomes like, man, I gotta even like a receiver on the offensive side. His whole stat book, everything that he's going to accomplish is predicated on that quarterback and that offensive line, and in some degree to that running back. So, but I think playing a defensive back position, it's just kind of a different world. It's a different mindset.
I guess, because, like I said, man, I was at Marshall and we weren't, like, there was never a season where we were thinking that we would maybe, we were hoping maybe to get to 500 my last season, but
I got a great example. Kid went to Capital. He played defensive back. His junior year, they go 5-5. He makes All-State. Why? Because he's on every tackle. He got 100 tackles that year at the D-back position. The next year they win a championship. He literally gets no accolades because he ain't had to do nothing. Because the defensive line and linebackers were so stacked, ain't nothing coming his way. So it's a little different mindset for you.
I made a bunch of tackles. I was a safety at Marshall. Made a bunch of tackles. Led the team 3 to 4 years,
and that ain't supposed to happen.
So that does draw some attention.
Yeah.
And I get the benefit of saying, though, I was never looked at as a safety, as a pro athlete, as a potential pro athlete. I was always looked at as a corner. That was kind of when the new size and length and stuff of corners. But I'm gonna give one more shout out here to our sponsor. Let's Talk with Carly is sponsored by Frank Walker Law. Real talk, real experience, real results. For more information, go to frankwalkerlaw.com. Hollis, I'm gonna close with this, and I'll give you a chance maybe even to say anything. I see a Hurricane Huntington game somewhere down the line.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's even possible that it could be in the championship.
Could be.
It could be, but I feel like I don't know if it's a playoff game. I don't know, championship game. But if I see that game again, I'm not sure that it stays that way. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be that close. And I'm gonna give the edge to Huntington.
To Huntington?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, man. That's one of those I got to see it, man, because I think it's just like I said, just like Huntington stacked with athletes, so is Hurricane. They got the Largos kid, they got the Deuce kid, the Villatami, so they got a bunch of players on that squad that could, and that's only going to get better.
And Bellatami, I hadn't seen him really play.
He's about that.
He can
really
play.
Good.
He's really good.
Really play, man. Like I said, I'm biased, but I think I don't know. I see quarterback at the next level, but that's just me.
I don't know. He can run the ball as well too.
Yeah. But that's what you said we needed, right?
True. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you checking in with us, and we will be back next week.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, wise victory sweet. Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say, you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.